Hello, welcome. Hi there, everybody. So glad that you're joining us today. We have a really interesting guest. She's very different. We've had her before. You might remember her. She told me that she was going to be a few minutes late because she's just getting off of her job. So that's okay. Um, she's worth the wait, and she is a psychic artist, a spirit artist of um, people, but also animals. Her paintings are really interesting, and I'm going to be showing some of them today while she's on with us. And I will start off by saying, welcome to Father Shawn's Paranormal Ministry. I am his co host, Annette Munich. Father Shawn is unable to be here. He's been on extended leave due to his wife's illness. How she is doing is that she was able to be discharged from the hospital and go to rehab. So that's very good. That's progress, and we're very grateful for that. I'm going to put a link in the chat room right now, and that is the GoFundMe for Sharon Whittington. And for everyone that prays for her, for everyone that's donated, your, your prayers and your donations are appreciated more than you can imagine. And he's so sorry that he's not able to be here. Here goes the link in the chat room. On GoFundMe, that is the title of the GoFundMe page is Join Sharon's Fight to Beat Cancer, and that's Sharon Whittington. Um, Father Shawn is a priest with the USOCC, that's United States Old Catholic Church. You may know him from travel channels. Eli Roth Presents, The Legion of Exorcists, which you can see now on Max and Discovery Plus. Father Shawn is also an author. He has two books, God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal um, Ministry, Volumes 1 and 2. And I have Volume 2 today that I can show. Each story is its own chapter. So each chapter is one of his cases, and you cannot even imagine how crazy this book gets. And he also tells how he used his exorcism skills and spiritual warfare knowledge to resolve these cases. His books are available on Amazon, but also you can get them at his website, and you could get a signed copy that way. Um, the books on Amazon are available in paperback and Kindle. Father Shawn's website is ghostbegone.biz. Ghost-b-gone.biz. And so that's where you could get a copy where he signs it for you, and that would be really nice. Different ways to support Father Shawn and what he's doing. And we appreciate everything. So, my guest is here. I see her, and I'm going to bring her on now. I don't think I have anything else that I have to say. I will bring on Angela Boley. Angela,
Hi.
hi. Really, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, I appreciate you having me, and I'm uh, keeping her in my prayers earnestly. And I I am just grateful for the updates. And this is a very hard battle for anybody to go through. And I truly hope that uh, that she sees improvement, I and also in the spirit world too, that the angels are there supporting her and surrounding her and keeping her comfortable. in spite of everything that's going on.
Yeah, well, it is a big deal that she got to go to the rehab center. So we're very grateful for that. She's had 6 procedures since June the 22nd, which was her major surgery, and then different things that they had to do um, that came up along the way. So it's been just a long road. It has been a very long road. So, getting her to where she's stable and starting to truly recover because she has another procedure coming up
Oh,
before
wow.
she's well enough for it. So this is just a lot. Um, so, you know, um, very grateful that you're keeping her in your prayers and very grateful that you joined us. You have been on with us before. I'm very comfortable with you. Very glad that you came. The stories are always super interesting, and you're, in my opinion, a more spiritual person than a lot of people might at first think because you're more than a psychic medium, you're a light worker as well. So you're trying to help the spirits, and that's a beautiful thing. So, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate Father Shawn and everything that he has done as well. I always appreciate when he's on, and I appreciate you so much. You're very supportive. And I also love your artwork too. You produce some really wonderful artwork.
Thank you. I enjoy it. It's kind of like my therapy in a way, because I can get lost in that. And well, I don't know if you'd call it a therapy or a meditation. I can
Hmm.
get lost in that and get into the zone, and time can pass. I won't even know if I've been working on it for an hour or 2 hours or what,
Hmm.
because I'm just completely in it and not thinking anymore about anything else really. So it's very, very therapeutic. And if anybody has anything, and I recommend that you do, find yourself as something that
Hmm.
you can pour yourself into, because it's just wonderful and very good for you as a person overall. And I've got Nancy here. Happy Friday. I'm going to watch from a different device because this needs to charge. Okay, Nancy, thank you for coming. We're glad you're here. I know I saw Travis. I accidentally made a mistake and I didn't change it to our show, so I just put out all these messages on blast by accident. Hello, everyone. Hello, Travis. Welcome back. Always glad to see you. And I think I want to talk for a few minutes about what you do and
Hmm.
how you do it and when it started for you, for people that don't know and they don't know your backstory, and they may not have seen you before. And then you have sent over, I think everyone will be really interested in this. We have 5 paintings that she sent over, and she can tell the story behind each of these paintings. And for the
Yes.
people listening in New Orleans and the Gulf Coast, we'll just give a good description of what this is a painting of, and listen to the story around it. So, Angela, if you would just start off a little bit with what you do and what your background is.
Sure. So, was very young. I had psychic experiences when I was incredibly young, and some of those were even traumatic experiences. But later on, I did have spirit guides. I didn't know what spirit guides were at the time. I did have Jesus. He kept coming to me in the form of a doctor, and he was telling me he had been giving me this gift and with the ability to see and hear spirits. So I would started painting what spirits were showing me. Okay? And I started telling their stories that way, and could, as I'm painting, their information would come through, and I would go ahead and share that information then for a long time, all I did was try to figure out what was going on. And in a dream, and at least a couple times, saying to me that he had given me this gift and that these dark entities, they always attack me because they want it for themselves, but only Jesus controls it. And so he was talking about these psychic abilities that he had been giving me. And he told me how to set up boundaries. He told me to read the Bible cover to cover and keep reading it so I can understand the dynamics of the spirit world and understand how the spirit world really works. And I figured out that it was spirits that were coming to me. And of course, I could see some of them would be so vivid to me, I could not distinguish between a real physical person and a spirit. And that's happened to me before. And I learned how to set boundaries so I wasn't overwhelmed. And I joined a paranormal group. It took a long time to find somebody who was kind of open to using psychics and in a paranormal group. So I found this group, and the spirits would start to come to me, but even before I would go to the location, and sometimes even then before I was going. So I'd paint what they would look like and relay their messages before I would even get there. And when I would go to a location, not only would the information be validated that the spirit provided, but also what the people were seeing, the apparition they were seeing, be validated because I did a portrait of that apparition. And so when I do readings for people, I actually sit down and I see in their aura, I can see their angels, I can see their loved ones in the aura, and I paint them, and I will paint their messages. I will paint, and as I'm painting, I relay the messages as I'm painting. Usually it takes about 15 minutes, and I'll do a chalk portrait very quickly and relay the spirit guides messages, the angels messages for them, and so they can get that message sent over. And I also help spirits as well. They come to me all the time for help and to help them find that peace, help them find the door, help them find the light, help them get to the other side. And I do that as well. And I do remote viewing. I help too with haunted properties where people, I would ask them to send them a photo of the place in their home or on the property when they have the paranormal experience, and I can pick up on the spirit. And then I can leave out of body and go there and deal with that spirit, either help that spirit move on, or if it's a negative entity that doesn't have any good intentions, make sure that spirit is removed from the property. And I continue to paint. I also paint in acrylic and do larger and bigger paintings for people of their spirit guides, just spending like a couple weeks listening and communicating. And then when I'm done with that painting, I got all the details in there, that the images that your spirit guide wants them to see and to understand, I ship it to them. And I also type up a report of what I was given, the images, the messages that I was giving, and to ship it all to them. And of course, you'll see, I'm even with spirits coming to me, I will just go ahead and paint, even if somebody doesn't commission one or ask for one, and because I just paint whatever they show me. And I post that online so their messages can be shared. And I particularly enjoy painting for the Holy Mother, because she will show me images and send me messages, and I will paint what she wants me to paint and relay the messages as I post them online of those images. And so I did share some paintings with you. We can discuss those paintings if you want to, and go into a little bit detail on the story behind each painting.
I love that when you bring up about Mary, because I remember you saying that before, and that she also helps you with helping the spirits. And I think that that's especially beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Also, finding out that, I don't think I knew this before, that you get impressions before you go to the location, or maybe you don't even go to the location. You get impressions and you start to paint that out. And if
Right,
you go to the location, you're bringing that with you. You're not
right,
doing it after the fact or during. You've already done it beforehand.
right. Yes. And I particularly, that's something that just so amazes me, because you learn that there's really isn't such thing as space and distance in the spirit realm. It's just wherever, it's like wherever you are, it's like you just think about it and you're there. There's no travel time. Like, there really isn't. And so when spirits end up in multiple locations, for them, they're there in that other location in an instant, and they can feel me. What kind of it, they can see me, they can hear me, they know who I am, and they'll reach out to me, and they seem to know ahead of time if I'm going to be in a location and just show up, and they'll just show up, and I will experience. Sometimes I will actually experience the same haunting the other people are experiencing at that location. And
Wow.
even before I even go there. There was one incident where I had that happen, and at the time I was living in an apartment, and at the apartment, I felt this presence of this young man, and he actually came to me in a dream. This young man was kind of a teenager, um, kind of very arrogant, um, and he died in the 1800s. Basically, what happened that he was the mill owner's son, so he was working for a sawmill, and rather than bringing on somebody with a lot of experience, the next in line to go ahead and work then run that sawmill, who was a man in his, in his 50s, the sawmill owner brought in his 18-year-old son, who didn't care about business, and was very arrogant, was very self-centered, and um, wasn't too interested in working. And it made the other man very angry, and so he ended up killing this young man. But the young man was still very arrogant, even in his afterlife. And he was very proud of the fact that he could make the person at the location where he was haunting see hallucinations.
Whoa.
And I had gone outside, and I was sitting on my balcony, and I saw this giant fly fill up my entire water bottle. And it was just there for a moment, and I thought, well, maybe it's just a strange reflection of light. But that sure looked like a giant housefly that filled up the entire water bottle. And I get done with relaxing outside. I go into the kitchen, and there are flies pouring out of the lights in my kitchen. And my entire kitchen counter was covered in flies. And it was just pouring out of the lights. And there was not a single fly before that. It was just that quick. It was just suddenly there, And, I cleaned up all the flies. I went to the location and ended up helping cross over this young man, but also the man who killed him as well. They crossed over together.
Wow.
And we were able to get the killer's mother involved, who had been praying for them. She had been saying the rosary. She was an Italian lady, and she was praying the rosary that whole time.
Wow.
Right, and this was during when Teddy Roosevelt was just inaugurated, at the time that the man was executed for the murder, and the other person was also murdered. And her prayers, and then her coming over also, she came over and helped these two cross over together. So praying the rosary, it does make a difference. Prayers make a big difference for this life and the afterlife.
I absolutely believe that, and I love stories like that. And I'm going to ask, and we had an interesting show last week, and it came up talking about. I'm going to toss this your way to see if you have anything at all that you could say about
Mm-hmm.
it. The spirit world, and why some spirits are stick around the cemetery,
Mm-hmm.
why some of them are able to move around freely, and why some seem to be stuck in a place. And also, it was brought up that there sometimes are like, this reminded me of it from what you were saying with your story a little bit. A bully spirit can hold another spirit in a
Mm-hmm.
location.
Absolutely, they can.
So after both of those men were dead, were they still like linked to each other in
They
the?
were, yes, they were still linked to each other. So when we went to the house which had been turned into apartments, the teenager was still there, and the teenager was there. But originally, it had belonged to someone else. It belonged to another owner who originally owned that place that was not related to either deaths, right? Not related to the murderer or to the young man that was killed, but he was simply the owner of the house. And he was there and he was hanging on to that. He was a very corrupt judge. He was very materialistic. So he always thought of his house as his, and he still refused to relinquish it after he passed. And when he was at the house and I was talking to him, then we start talking about his mother. And he mentioned that he knew about the deaths of the other two. And he said it was a terrible thing when that happened because it was quite a shock. And when I started to ask about his mother, or actually the owner started asking about his mother, well, what would your mother think of what you did as a corrupt judge working for, organized crime? And he started to get a little more soft, and he was talking about his mother, and his mother finally showed up. And then when that happened, these two other men came through the mirror together. Because in order for the mother to come through, the gate of heaven had to open. So, and I asked this at a prayer, for the light to open, and she came through, and then with the light open, like everybody just went over, because you had the mother, and then you had the murderer and murdered, and the owner of the house, all going together, right? Wow. And absolute credit. I give a lot of credit to the mother who had been faithfully praying the rosary every day. As soon as she could learn how to talk, she'd been praying the rosary, and then especially started praying more often when she knew what her son was really into. So I have to credit a lot of that, because that would not have gone as smoothly if there wasn't been a lot of prayer involved. And I'm glad that they all crossed over, but they were linked by location and also time. And the murderer and murdered were obviously very linked because of what happened. And, the murderer was executed. He was hanged. And the murdered, he was unconscious drunk when he was killed. So he didn't experience the pain that you would expect. But they all crossed over together.
Wow. What a story. And I love how you talk about prayer and the significance of prayer. And I really believe that I'm in the Auxilium Christianorum, which is a spiritual warfare group. I've been in it for 3 years, and we say a set of devotionals every night to help support people that are in spiritual warfare, particularly priests. It's Father Chad Ripperger, but it's also anyone. And it's so important. And I also wonder, you might be someone good to ask this too. It used to be a lot more common for people to pray for the souls of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like that's just kind of withered away. But I still think it's very important. Do you think that it helps?
I think it does help. I really do. Because I do say prayers for spirits that come to me. And I had a lady that came to me, a spirit lady that came to me, that she was actually quite paranormally active, and she had developed necrotizing fasciitis back in the 1930s. Actually, probably the 20s. It was a little bit earlier than that. And she had a husband and 3 kids, and of course they sent her away. And I think they sent her to a leprechaun inn. And I prayed for her.
What kind of disease is that?
A necrotizing fasciitis is like leprosy. It is a skin-eating disease. And today they treat it, they have to remove it, and they put stitches in. Sort of like they treat it in a similar way that you would treat like gangrene. They do use, my understanding that they do use some medications today. But they have to be very aggressive with it, because it is a very aggressive skin-eating disease. And that's what it is. It's sort of very similar to leprosy, but it's a different bacterial strain, but it has the same effect. And she was sent away, and she kept saying it's not my fault. She actually held on to me in bed. She was somehow reaching up through the mattress on my bed, had her arms pulled around, pulled me down into the bed to get my attention. And she even appeared around a doorway. She appeared outside of me. She kept coming to me in dreams. And I prayed for her. I asked that heaven open up a doorway for her and that she would experience the fullness of her healing and be reunited with her family. And that actually worked. And she got relief, and she loved that I did a portrait and told her story and posted that for her. I did do some research and know she was from Cincinnati because she followed me from Cincinnati. She showed me her immigration papers in a dream, so I knew exactly her first, her last name, that she was from northern Poland. And she came through a spirit box, spoke very clearly. I asked her where you're from. She said Poland. I said, what area of Poland? She said northern. She wrecked intelligent responses, found the church that she attended back in that time frame, and she was so relieved. And I had another spirit that I recently prayed for who was Asian. Right, she came. She was Chinese, and she came to me, and she had, in her spirit self, had an elongated neck, and was kind of moving around like an anaconda around with her elongated neck. Well, in Asian cultures, in Japanese culture in particular, and even in Taiwanese and different Asian cultures, when a woman would lie or did something wrong, she was cursed and her neck would stretch out. Sort of like we say your nose gets longer, your neck in Japanese and Asian culture, their necks, women's necks would stretch out, and they would either crawl around at night and drink oil or alternatively become a vampire. But she was kind of emulating that. She had a lot of guilt, and I prayed for her, prayed that she be released from the guilt and that she be healed and she be loved and shown for forgiveness. So I said the prayer of, Eternal Father, I offer thee the body and blood, soul and divinity of your dearly beloved Son, in atonement for our sins and for those of the whole world, and in atonement for this woman's spirit. And she was very grateful. She crossed over and she was fully released, and she was very, very grateful. And definitely, you pray for those souls. I mean, a lot of these souls and some of these souls are kind of in their, what we call purgatory, if you're familiar with the concept of purgatory,
Yes.
where they are kind of, they have a lot of guilt, or they feel like they have to stay, or they feel like something is not finished and they have to somehow pay back their sins, and so they are staying behind. And you pray for them for their release from purgatory. And we still have to do that because spirits do linger, and that can be an issue. It can be very unsettling for people that don't experience the paranormal to have a sudden abrupt paranormal experience and not sure why that person is there, particularly if that person is traumatizingly injured and they appear to you in their state in which they died. And it's a terrifying experience. I went through it. I actually went into shock when I had that happen to me a few times, and at least a couple times I went into shock. And I learned to pray for those spirits so that they can get out of that shock and out of that state and experience that full healing and that wholeness they need to experience, so they can easily just cross over to the heavenly realm.
We had a lady last week, Camilla. She's not here tonight, but she was asking, and I did have an answer for her about praying for your ancestors all the way back to the first drop of source blood, and praying for your descendants all the way out to infinity, and
Mm-hmm.
just your whole family line. Which, if any of those people weren't born or didn't, we'll assume they all fell in love or whatever, we wouldn't be here. Our children, our parents wouldn't be here.
Right.
Um, she asked me, what more could we do for the spirit world? She told everybody what she did, praying for the deceased. And then I said about ancestral prayers. But maybe you have an interesting recommendation on that, of what really helps in offering up prayer for people that have passed on.
Right, you offer up prayer for them, and you can pray for your. Like I do like the prayer of I offer of the Divine Mercy Chaplet and offering that up because every time you say that, it said you have 1,000 souls released from purgatory every time you say that. But you can also use that on your history as well. Now, when you are in prayer and you are doing what Spirit has put you here to do, you actually, I've been shown that it actually heals and breaks all curses from your past family line. So you actually inherit a spiritual legacy from your ancestors. And sometimes it's to the point where there's nothing left to inherit and it's all corruption. And it's up to you to do the prayers, do the spiritual work, finding, make sure that you're listening to what God's purpose is for you and following through with that, because when you're doing that, you're actually repairing that spiritual legacy and you're rebuilding it. And you have something that you can pass on because you have rebuilt that spiritual inheritance, just like you'd have like an estate inheritance, you have a spiritual inheritance that you can actually pass on. So you actually are passing on blessings, restoring blessings, and passing on those blessings to the next generation.
That's a lot like what I was saying because with my ancestral prayers, I pray for um, all of the people in my family line back to the first drop of source blood. Then I'm praying gratitude for all the good they did on this earth, mercy on their souls, prayers for any and all that are in purgatory, asking God to heal our generational diseases, afflictions, illnesses, because
Mm-hmm.
that's something that you can do as well. And then also binding and removing curses, black magic, bad karma, dark forces, and sending that. I ask it to be sent to the foot of the cross to be
Right.
judged and never to return. And then I pray for the descendants out to infinity to keep them safe and strong and smart and free and good and protected. And I do that every night, and I feel like that's exactly what you're talking about. That I'm praying for the line and the legacy, and that we do inherit things, but I know a lot of people think we don't. And maybe it doesn't seem fair that we do inherit a spiritual legacy that's negative, for example, that is not our fault.
Right. Right.
In fact,
And that happens.
I heard that it can go back more than three generations, so something could be done
Mm-hmm.
by somebody that you don't even, the people currently don't even know. A lot of people don't know the names of their great 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 grandparents
Right.
and wouldn't know the incidents that occurred during their life. This is so interesting. And, because of the way that you are able to see, feel, understand, and live, you're the perfect person to, just see what your impressions are of these things because um, it's really different and a lot of these topics come up quite a bit. Um, and most of us, we're just talking from what we know, what we're taught, but we don't actually really have an understanding of um, a large smattering of spirits per se and their stories and their traumas to the
Right.
extent that you are able to and then help them. And I know that we're already more than halfway through the show and I got all these things, but I want to touch on because we're talking about um, the spiritual realm as far as religious, how you're able to use color rays and rays of color
Yes.
for healing. And I'd love to do that. And then if we don't get through the paintings, I want to rebook you right away and we'll do a part two
Okay,
if you'll
great.
come back because I don't really want to rush through everything. These are things that I can't ask a lot of people about. You're very special in that regard. So I want to hear about your light, your color healing, your color light healing.
Right. So each of the different colors, different wavelengths of light have different vibrational frequencies that resonate to a specific frequency that induces a specific type of healing. So if, let's say that you have a problem with repeated patterns and habits you're trying to break, then you would call in the purple color. So the purple ray in the purple light breaks up old patterns, right? It breaks up the destructive patterns, even if it's as simple as an obsessive thought, or maybe in something that you self sabotage repeatedly, or maybe you're trying to quit something. Maybe you're trying to quit a bad habit. You can call in on the purple ray and imagine that purple light coming down, washing through you and all through your aura, and it stops the repetitiveness, the cycle, it breaks it up. And then you would have the red ray. I like the red ray for people that are severely depressed, that have issues with getting the motivation to get up and get going again, and when they have a lot of stagnant energy. Because people, when I see this depression in people, it looks like a black bar that's going through the center column of their body. It just looks like a very black bar. And so you would call in the red light, and the red light would come down, and it actually gets circulation flowing again. It gets help. It's healthy for the heart. It helps the person clear out all that sedentary, stagnant energy so that they can actually get up and move and start feeling better. And it helps then give them the energy to get up and try and to keep moving, to make and build on that progress. There is also the blue white light, which I associate with the Blessed Mother. And this is a color that is for not only healing, but also cleansing, protection, some cleansing from the negative energy. So you would bring in a blue white light. So it is a very, you can either call it a very extremely light blue or a very white light that has a little bit of blue in it. But it is the best way I can describe it. I call the blue light, the blue white light, because that's exactly how it appears to me. And it anytime either is a space that feels heavy or dark, or even if you had a tough day, you bring in the blue white light and it will clear out your energy and clear on all the negative, that heaviness, right? And it's purity, it's cleansing. And you have green, which green is about growth and healing, and it's heart energy. It's mainly the heart. So with the green light energy, that is energy for healing of the heart. If you feel a little bit down or you're feeling a little bit worn out of the heart, emotionally, you can actually call in the green light and ask it to, have it, imagine it filling out your heart and your body and your cells and just help you with that. And you'd have the yellow
I'm
light
writing
is,
all these down.
yeah,
That's why I keep looking down. Go ahead.
the yellow light is about empowerment of the self, and it's more about if you have low self esteem, you can actually counter that with the yellow ray. So you would call in the yellow light, and you imagine heaven open, yes, heaven open, and bring down the yellow light. And then you imagine that yellow light pouring around you and flowing through you, and it actually makes you feel more whole. It makes you feel more centered, and you feel more empowered, and bringing down that yellow light. So if you have low self esteem or you're self critical, you're going to bring out that light and just imagine clearing all of that criticism away, and now that just let the yellow light come in and help you and clear all of that out. And you also will have orange. So all the other colors are kind of subvariants of the other rays. So orange, again, trying to get with movement, again, similar to red, and but also has the element of the yellow in it. And you can also use think of gold and silver too. So gold, using that for the mind, right, to help clear your thoughts, but also to protect, and also silver as well, like a silver white sparkling light is also very clarifying and protecting as well. So there are a number of colors and rays that we use for the different frequencies depending on what's needed.
And it's really cool too because a few weeks ago we were talking about healing sound frequencies,
Mm-hmm.
and that is also um, something that's very interesting and I think very provable. And this goes back to hundreds of years ago, talking about sound therapy. When you talk about light therapy, sometimes you start getting into talking about auras, chakras, and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, and people that can see, like you can, see people's colors. Are you seeing it with your actual eyes, or are you going into a meditative kind of trance?
I actually see all the time, and I think it is from my third eye, but rather than my physical eyes, because sometimes I can close my eyes and still see the images and colors, and other times it seems like the other way around. But for most of the time, I can close my eyes and still see it. Um, Other times, it just comes across through my normal eyes, and I will see greens and yellows around a person. Um, but I most of the time I think I'm kind of seeing with other senses rather than my physical eyes.
Interesting. So I'm going to say right now, thank you to everybody who's listening to UPRN 105.7 FM in New Orleans, 105.3 FM in the Gulf Coast. And I want to switch over to showing some of these paintings and
Mm-hmm.
getting the backstory on them. And the first one here is an image. It looks like a church and it looks like a fire and it looks like the fire splits the painting, and then on the right there's a black and white sky with a full moon.
That's right. So it's split is fire that's actually splitting time. So you have on the left side, you'll see a blue sky and clouds, and you see an old banded church, and it appears like it's melting into the grass underneath. And then on the other side is the moon with a nighttime sky. And then the Blessed Mother came through, and she was saying to paint this is to show people time coming to an end,
Ooh,
um, time being finite rather than something that is perpetual and constant, and that it too can end. And that's what is being shown here. And if you look on the left hand side on the church there, you'll see a cloud that kind of in the shape of the number three to honor the Holy Trinity there.
yes,
Okay? And she's just showing that this, like, time is finite, like, time will come to an end. That's the end of time when we talk about the end where souls are judged and, well, souls are all gathered together. She's saying that's coming to an end, so that we are nearing the end of time. So then that's literally time burning away.
very interesting. And how long ago did you do this painting?
I think I did this painting about 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay, very recently.
Yes.
Are you ready to move to the next one?
Yes.
Okay. This one is a storm with a tornado over a lake, and then around the lake there's a lot of, looks like, bushes and greenery.
Right. A lot of hillsides there and water, and you see the lightning strike reflected in the water and the tornado touching in the background of the distant hills. And you can see the reflection of a sunny sky that's behind the
Right.
tornado there. And you will see the reflection of the sun. And this was about there is still hope, but there's also a very necessary violent transition that we're going through. Right. So but it's, but the transition is spiritual. So the spiritual world is actually stirring everything up around the world, but it's necessary in order for us to bring a clearing of the air, uh, which a tornado kind of represents, that clearing of the air. It's bringing air, fresh air, but it's also destroying of the old order of things, right? Destroying the old order of things, destroying that which is harmful, which is not productive to us, clearing the air. And you have lightning, which lightning is divine energy touching the earth. And then you have the sun beyond that, which is literally heaven beyond that, like behind all of these changes and all that's going on. Heaven is still there, heaven is still present with us. But there are sweeping changes that are being made that's been initiated in the spirit world that may seem traumatic to us, but it's necessary in order to clear out the old and destructive and to bring in a healing and holistic change to the human race as to where we're going.
And I just have to throw on. Oh, how long ago did you do this one?
This was recent. This was probably just maybe a month ago, if that. And of course, you also have the water, which is this symbolic of the spiritual,
Right.
the spiritual, the soul.
But it's been such a horrendous year for tornadoes,
Mm-hmm.
like really bad. Um,
Yes.
Especially in the Midwest. I'm originally from Illinois. Still have a lot of family there. Really scary. Lots of damage. Just crazy. And here in Oklahoma, we have a lot of tornadoes, but it's mostly in the springtime. With a lot of this stuff that's happening lately, usually in the summer, you don't see a lot of tornado um, uh, warnings and events. It's just kind of in the spring when the cold and warm air are mixing together. So I think it's really interesting that you painted a storm and a tornado. I'm going to move on to the next one unless you want to say something else about it.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay, this looks like, I really like this one. Over the water, there's a sun with just rays of the sun pouring out from it in all directions. And there's a blue sky with clouds and some mountains in the background, and the clouds are tinged with yellow.
Yes. And so this is the expression of like what spirits see when they're moving towards that light. When they get to see that light, that is actually what comes through. When I say a prayer and ask, open the door for heaven, whether it's for a person that's still in body or in spirit, this is what happens. This is what you see. You see this incredible light come through that is indescribable. And you can see the light extending, light rays extending to the clouds beyond and then kind of reflecting and shining everything. And it's actually turned the water gold
Yeah.
because of the beautiful light and this beautiful golden rays of light that comes through is so much healing. And then the closer that we get to the light, whether you're still in the body or whether you're out of the body, the more amazing and the more healed that you feel. And I wanted to put that in there, and I was led to put that in there because of the immense beauty that people just don't see. If they could see it, they would be more spiritual. They would want to be more spiritual if they knew how beautiful the spirit world is.
And you're saying like opening the door to heaven and things like that, which a lot of people would call a portal, but it's not just a portal, right?
Right, exactly. It is not just a portal because the light that is the source of everything, the light that you dwell in, right? Because God is this amazing energy. It's like this amazing form of light that is pure love and wisdom and order. And when that expression comes through, you want to be closer to that. You want to experience that even more. And when you are saying a prayer, you are literally allowing that light to come in, and you, in your prayers, invite the light to come in, invite that heaven to be open and to sit with you, because that heavenly light is transformative and powerful and the most powerful healing force that we have. and the force that created everything. Why would you not want to experience it or see it in some ways? And so I put this in a more visual form so that people can at least get a sense of what that's like, because it's all encompassing, and the rays transform everything that it touches.
That is beautiful. Also, you said something earlier about mirrors, spirits
Mm-hmm.
coming through mirrors, and
Yes.
a topic that comes up a lot about our mirrors portals.
Yes, mirrors can be used as portals. Absolutely. I've had spirits come through mirrors a lot, and they will just, spirits can create their own portals in a mirror and come through that way. Or people on this side can create a portal through a mirror. Yes, so there's highly reflective surfaces for some reason end up being portals, and I do believe that you can don't need a mirror to create a portal, but for spirits, it seems like it's easier for them to come through a mirror.
Interesting. I am going to pull up one more painting. I stopped pulling them up before because they were just automatically popping on the screen instead of waiting for me. So here is the last one. This looks like an old-fashioned brick building with kind of a old bay window, and it's a red brick. And the sky, even though the sky looks like it might be a nice day with a nice color of blue, there is lightning coming down from the cloud in the sky.
Yeah, so this one is of an actual building is where I live. Now, I saw this building years ago, didn't think anything of it, and then recently it just popped into my mind, and I has there are spirits in and around this building. This building dates back to the end of the Civil War, and I realized, and I looked the building, looked it up. The day that it popped in back into my head and brought it back into my memory was the day that this building was put up for sale. And this building has been apartments, has been a business in it. It does have the window in it. It is quite worn down. It has trees going up the side. It does have a telegraph infrastructure attached to the side to it. To give you an idea of the age of it, it does have an old wooden bay windows, and the building is unusual in that it doesn't have a lot of symmetry in it. So the the spacing of the windows and the number of windows in the top and the bottom are varied, and they just seem fairly random where they're placed. And it has a flat roof. And the reason why I painted this, and because some of these spirits just brought this to attention, I started dreaming about the place, and I started dreaming about the inside of it. There are spirits that kind of stuck here, but they don't want that building torn down. They want it to be preserved because they feel like it's more of their home, and this is the place that they've always liked to be. And the lightning at the top, again, with the blue sky lightning out of the blue, it just seemed like the building was put up for sale out of the blue. So, and of course, you do have this symbolism of lightning, of spirit touching the earth. But I would like to get inside of the building one day and just see what I experience with it, because this building is quite large, quite old, and everybody I talk to in the town are very interested in seeing it restored and preserved and taken care of. And the whole town feels that way because there's something about the building that draws people to it, and I believe that there are the spirits inside who treasure this building and who are just a part of it, and they're part of the history. They don't want to see this destroyed at all. They want to preserve. They want somebody to buy it and take care of it.
Interesting. And sometimes there's buildings and homes that you're looking at it and you feel like it's looking back at you.
Mm-hmm. And I
It's
do feel that
not
way
just a
with this building.
structure. It is not just a structure. It's a story, and
Mm-hmm.
it's energy, and So I feel like that's probably for sure what this is. But
Yes.
I always am for preserving old buildings because they just don't build them like that anymore and they never will again. And the craftsmanship will be gone forever when they're all gone. So this is very cool. So this building is in Ohio.
Yes. Yes. And it's called, I think they call it the Pavlov building, but I think it was also originally known as the Oddfellows building. So, which the Oddfellows were a group of Catholic men who wanted to do charitable work in their communities. And so that has to be memorialized and remembered and enduring. And a lot of their imagery is still in that building. And I go by that building and I thought, oh my goodness, I really hope they fix it up, whoever gets it, because it does need work. It does need restoration service. I know that the bricks are kind of need to be dealt with. There are plants growing on the side of the building. There's a tree growing right up the pipe. The roof um, edging of the roof that needs to be dealt with. And I know there's probably issues on the inside, but for what I've been able to see from it, it has some huge timber supports that you just don't see in buildings anymore. You don't see
Right.
these giant wooden cross beams that are oak and set up, and they've been cured. They've been and they get stronger with time. You don't see that anymore, but this building has that. It would be a wonderful thing to see that fall into the right hands and get that taken care of. Unfortunately, I wish I could get that building. Unfortunately, it's out of my price range for a building that big, but it's a huge building, and I hope that it gets treasured and taken care of, and it gets a place of honor in the community where it's fixed up and looking like it was when it was first built.
Yes, I hope that it gets restored and preserved. We are getting to the end, so if you want to tell people where they can find you, and I will contact you and we'll do a part 2 on this because just a lot of interesting things, and I think everybody really has enjoyed the conversation, which is a little bit different. It's not the same old ghost stories, and lately UFO, UAP, that's the big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit different and interesting. So if you want to let people know where they can find you,
Sure. You can just Google Angela Boley, psychic portrait artist, and my Facebook page and my website comes up. I also have an Instagram as well. You can, and my events are listed on my Facebook page where I'm going to be, and also on my website as well. And you'll also see my artwork posted on my Facebook page and on my website. You can always email me, and my email address is on my website and also on the Facebook page if you want to email me, or you can just message me on Facebook. Either way, or just leave a comment. Just Google Angela Boley, psychic portrait artist.
very nice. And thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming today. And we will do it again. We'll do a part 2. And I hope everybody enjoyed what she had to say. It's a lot to think about. It really is. I want to thank Joe Montaldo and Michelle DeRoche from here at UPRN. And next week we'll be back with Happy Medium Monthly with Susan Ahern. And please stay tuned for Spirit Switchboard with Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. I want to wish everyone a great night and a great weekend. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for having me on. Have a great evening, everyone.